Well, good afternoon, and welcome to this panel where we are hoping to squidge the tiny topic of the future of advertising into about half an hour. While we do that, I do hope that we're going to have a small symbolic swear box on the main blah, blah, blah terms attached to this topic. So things like mass personalization, ecosystems, navigation, and immersive experiences. So I do know that our fabulous panel has got a lot more to say about this subject, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing from them, and I'm thrilled to introduce them, which I will do now. I'm going to start with Veriça Djurdjevic, which, as you might know, Veriça is the Chief Revenue Officer at Channel 4. She's worked at various high-profile media agencies, including MediaVest, MEC, now Wavemaker, then 11 years at PhD, where she became CEO. Now, apparently, Veriça also worked in a cake shop.
Not at the same time as the agency, it was before that.
Oh, was it really? Okay, that's great. And she also served cream cakes to Mark Morrison. Is that Return of the Mac?
It was Return of the Mac.
See?
He had a cream split.
Totally down with it. That's great. So she might go back to that if the future of advertising doesn't quite work for her.
Exactly.
I think that the other thing to say is I did discover that one of the owners that you would ideally like to work with in the future or collaborate with in the future is, in fact, Spotify.
Exactly.
Which is quite convenient, because our next panel member is Rita Patel, who's head of sales EMEA at Spotify. And Rita has also had a stellar career in organizations like the FT, Microsoft, and Autotrader, as well as being an advisor to historic royal palaces, which is quite a nice gig. But actually an even nicer gig is that he's part of the selection committee for Soho House.
That's you.
Yeah.
Is this why you're all going to come to me later?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Quite a jammy role. He's got a lot of friends. And so available afterwards, I hope, as well. And last but certainly not least is Richard Huntington, who's the Chief Strategy Officer at Saatchi and Saatchi. And again, Richard's had a hugely impressive working life at some of the best agencies in the UK, including AMV, Hal Henry, and now a veteran CSO.
Yes.
Is that okay, that word?
Yes.
A veteran
Yes.
CSO at Saatchi. And another claim to fame is that earlier this year he was the author of a study called What the Fuck is Going On?
Yep. Yep.
It's a good question. Good question. He's also described as a high-octane brand strategist and also the most quotable person in brand strategy. And funnily enough, actually, Richard also reminded me that in the dark ages, I once interviewed him. It was an awkward moment, isn't it? So I interviewed him, and
You got the job.
and I'd completely forgotten, but actually, apparently, the feedback I gave to the headhunter afterwards was that it was like a bomb going off in my office.
I was much younger.
I think he took it well, and he's here anyway, so just smaller
Thank you,
bombs
Rita.
maybe today
Yeah.
would be fantastic. So anyway, fantastic panel, and very much looking forward to this too. So maybe just a couple of opening gambits and plunging straight in. So, I mean, when we're thinking about the crystal ball and the future of advertising and everything else, what do you think will be the main things that will stay the same, and which things do you think will be totally different? I guess as part of that, you've got same principles, but just very different practices, different tools, channels, etc. Or are some of those tools and channels that are so radically different going to affect and change some of the principles? Now, I think I might come to you first, actually, Richard, on that one, if you don't mind.
So I'm pretty paid up member of the principles cannot change. Humanity evolves over glacial periods of time, and essentially we are the same consumers as we were in the 1950s. And so when we think about human desire, human needs, we are talking about the same human beings. What clearly changes is the process, largely delivered by technology and data. I'd also say that there's an element, there must be the case in your industry as well, of fashion. And I think that we are witnessing a movement from a period of time in which Marketing was very much about affinity, like these are my values as a brand, are they your values? And the poster child, something like Dove's campaign for real beauty. I think we're moving to a period of time where relevance and empathy are going to be really, really important. So yes, the process changes and it's predominantly about technology, but there are other messy things going on in our lives. And one of them is what creative people like to create.
That's messy.
Oh, it is messy.
Very messy. I remember that bit. Thank you. Great opening gambit. Veriça.
I think the fundamentals will actually, as Richard says, remain the same. So brands will still want to be famous and they will want to be present in everyday lives. So that means they'll want to reach big numbers of people very quickly. That will not change. The way that we get there might change, and the technology, as Richard said, I think will enable that. They'll equally still want to reach discrete and distinct groups, whether it's about an interest or a life stage or a region or whatever it might be. So again, the ability to do that is going to remain really, really important for them. And I think actually, again, personalization has always been there. It's just going to take new and different forms. So I think the fundamentals will remain pretty much, I think, unchanged.
You said personalisation. You didn't say mass personalisation.
No, I didn't say mass personalization.
Okay, yeah.
No,
Great.
but the letter was once the way forward. Direct mail was once the way that people did that, and now obviously we have many more direct routes to do that.
Great stuff. I'm old enough to remember, actually, when it used to take about 5 days to get a letter out.
Yeah.
You remember? So it
Life
had
was
to be
much simpler.
typed,
Yeah.
and then you had Tipex. Look it up. Yes. Anyway, thank you. Right.
Well, firstly, thank you for inviting an audio-first platform to your event today. This is amazing. I feel like a cat amongst pigeons, or pigeon amongst cats, I don't know, but anyway. I would say there are some things that won't change at all, right? If you think about the world we are in, the game of advertising, we have to reach those audiences. And so that, evolution towards where those audiences are, that's not going to change. It's not going to change. It'll take time to educate brands and advertisers and give them the tools that they need in order to make the most of how they engage with those audiences. I think what will change, and very much to what Richard and Veriça said, I think there's 3 trends that we absolutely see at Spotify, actually, which are really sort of driving a lot of our organisation and then also how we're sort of moving forward. I think the first is very much centred around innovation. Innovation from the day of the letter to where we are now. For us, if we don't continually innovate to provide the most amazing of consumer experiences and then the ad experiences that come along with that, then that's not the game we should be in. Secondly, and I too am going to jump into the world of personalisation, 100%. But I'm going to call it connection.
Okay.
It's all about connection.
Okay.
This is what it's about. And I think the world we live in today, that connection piece is critical. If you take a platform like Spotify, we are with our fans, our users, we call fans, for 24/7. And so that personalisation, not mass, but personalisation, for the individual is really key. And then the final bit, to Richard's point, is creativity. That's the other bit which is continually evolving. So how is that creativity leaning into that personalisation, leaning into that innovation, and bringing the brands along too as well?
I suspect we may come back to this, but I do want to make the distinction between personalisation and connection. Personalisation for me is a way of connecting with people, but we all know it is more than simply knowing somebody's name that connects us with other human beings. And I think there's this massive space for insight and creativity, because I think we've got locked into a belief that targeting is the single most important tool in effective advertising, and I think that's fundamentally a mistake.
It's a funny old word, targeting, isn't it?
I love that, what Richard said. Can I add to that?
You like what Richard said?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
It's not about, can you find me?
Yeah.
It's about, do you get me?
Yes.
Full stop. That's what it's about.
Very
And
interesting.
that's where we're going. So I totally agree with that.
Actually, it's a very interesting thing as well. I'm just remembering that once upon a time there was an MBA textbook called Marketing Warfare, and there was a tank on every bloody page. And actually, it was about ambushing the consumer and guerrilla marketing and everything else. And if you're trying to win people over and build relationships, and this is the sort of thing that sustainable business is based on, it's quite a good idea to use the language of relationships rather than war. So maybe we'll come back to the...
Definitely.
Yeah? Maybe come back to the targeting thing. Anyway, great. Thank you. Yes, human beings and messiness and things like that, feelings, etc. I guess that the other thing about human beings is that we're not going to be able to stay awake for that much longer, reading all the crap that people tend to put on their, vlogs and in their videos and emails and everything else. So bearing that in mind and thinking about the term, the attention economy, and everything that swirls under that, and I guess, some of the worst aspects about rage and polarisation, if you're not careful, is rather an important part of the attention economy. So bearing that in mind, is it going to become easier or ironically harder to reach and engage with audiences in the future of advertising? And along with that, sort of why would that be, and what are the best examples that you found of reaching a difficult or challenging group? I'm going to come to you, if I may, Veriça, first of all.
Yeah, I think this links back to a lot of what we heard, I think, this morning, because when you think about the attention economy, there is this kind of sense when you read articles about this that everyone is rushing around with literally no attention to be had anywhere at any point in their day or their evening. And the reality is that obviously the quality of attention at different moments and in different mindsets is very, very different. And I think the real happy sweet spot for advertisers, and indeed for us as kind of the content owners and the broadcasters, is where you can find the win-win, where you can find an advertising experience that absolutely almost goes with the rhythm of the attention that's available. So do I think it's going to be harder? In a way, yes, because there are so many different media channels to consider, and there are different kinds of attention that go with each of them. But I do think that with really thoughtful planning and actually thinking about where and how that advertising experience fits, I think we can actually create things that are better for our viewers, actually, as well, and indeed are better for the brands. So if you think about it, the experience of, I don't know, say watching Gogglebox on a Friday night, that's quite often a shared experience. Certainly it is in my house. We sit down and we watch it together. So the advertising experience you can put into a break in Gogglebox can be a bit more expansive, can be a bit more creative, can tell a story in a different way. And we've had brands that have done that absolutely brilliantly. John Lewis, one really good example that I know is very close to Richard's heart. And then we have, those advertisers that actually recognize the importance of a show that people are really excited about. So I think Cake or Not Cake actually enhances a show that you think about because people are waiting to get home and watch that episode of Bake Off, and it just adds a little bit of entertainment in that moment where there is a bit more attention in it, and it just kind of engages and it grabs that moment. But at 8 o'clock we have to recognise that people may well be also doing their shopping online while they're watching some of our shows. So how can we work with brands to actually take advantage of that state, recognising that the attention is very different? So I think what it really requires is a deep understanding from brands and their agencies of how viewers and listeners are engaging in those different moments of attention, and really thinking about what's the most creative and engaging way that I can be part of that to give both a better experience for that viewer or that listener, and indeed to get a better result for that brand.
Which I guess echoes very much what you were saying earlier, Rack, too, about engagement and making people want to be part of what you're doing, as opposed to targeting them with a gun equivalent.
Very much so.
It's really interesting. So messy human beings again. Was that a commercial break for your future cake shop? You mentioned that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to come to you now, Rack. May I, please, on this topic? Are there things you want to add?
No, sure. Well, firstly, the Patel household love Gogglebox. So that is our ritual on a Friday night, 100%. We love it. What I would say is it's going to get easier. So I'm going to go the other way, actually, on this. Because, again, to the point that we've already been talking about, if we can get to a place where we truly get that consumer, we truly understand what that consumer or fan, as we call them, what's making them tick, what's going to make them do an action, and then we put a brand story within that in the right manner, to your point, then off we go. One of the things we sort of see is the sort of path for digital audio is very similar to the path of digital video from, let's say, 14 or 15 years ago. Everyone in this room will remember, some of you will remember this from 14 or 15 years ago or so. And what's happened over that 15-year period within video advertising is all the tools have been created in order for this storytelling to land in the best way. We see the same for audio. We see the same for podcasts too as well. And so what that will do will make that journey much more easier for a brand to get their story into that moment in the right way. So, marrying the consumer experience with the advertising experience is sacrosanct for us.
Fantastic. In fact, I remember when we talked about Spotify first of all, I do watch Spotify, and also I was embarrassed to say that I still have ads on Spotify. But actually, yeah, thank you. Whereas Rack was thrilled because it means yes.
I'm massively thrilled. Firstly, it's putting food on the Patel's table. And wait, a few things. And I do want to say an example as well, if you don't mind, Rita. The advertising platform, which is the free platform, I love that you're on it, Rita. That's where obviously the main advertising opportunities are too as well. And out in the real world, about 60% are on that. Yeah. But the example I want to share is actually one that's really close to home, which is with Channel 4. And it was a Streamland campaign when you were obviously rebranding all 4 to 4 as well. And so what we actually did here was we created a whole raft of different personas, which then completely aligned to music listening behaviour. And so Nick Grimshaw did us, I think, around 150 odd creative pieces. Now we have AI, we might not need him for that long.
Careful in this room, Rack.
Oh, okay.
Fighting talk.
Well, you did say, ruffle it up a bit, but no. And that's how we sort of deliver that out. So I know Richard will get very excited about that campaign because it's, again, we're getting the audience and we're delivering the right piece of content at that exact moment.
Okay, thank you. You've got 30 seconds. Is that right, Richard?
So I like building completely fluid and integrated customer journeys, but this is a television conference, and I think I would simply say that in the attention economy, we have failed as an industry to build a medium as powerful as television as an advertising vehicle, and I think that's one of our great failings, that as attention gets fragmented away from television, all its forms, we haven't replaced it, and I do not fundamentally believe that just because the eyeballs move, the money should move. And I think it's, so I struggle that we have not replaced television as it's like a marriage made in heaven. Advertising and television just were built for each other.
What did you say? Just because the eyeballs move, the money moves?
Well, yeah, because we kind of do things.
Pretend that was mine. I'm going to use that again.
Right, ears.
Don't worry.
No? Yes. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to come to you on this one, Richard, because I know it's something very close to your heart. So the role of insight in the current and future world of advertising, it's such an overused word, insight. So I suppose just covering what the hell do we mean by insight? Absolutely. And also about the balance between human and gut instinct and data and machine learning. How does that work and how should it work in your view?
Yeah, what's an insight is the most tedious conversation strategists in advertising ever have with each other, and it's constant on the platform formerly known as Twitter. But for me, it's the engine that makes everything work. It's the means of connection. Because it's about recognizing in people something that is fundamental and important to them. So insight for me is simply something that interests people. It's an action standard, it's not a thing. I think we've got into a world where we say, what's the insight? Where's the insight? Can I have some insights, please? And the reality, when we use that word in normal conversation, we say things like she's got incredible insight into the situation in Ukraine at the moment. Or we say that's a very insightful. It's an action standard, and we've lost our way. So the word I use now is revelation. Is this a revelation? Is this an astonishing disclosure about the brand or the category or the wider world? And that's where I think content and advertising meet, because that's all the people in this room are trying to create. It's to reveal something about humanity or the way things work. And so it's the fundamental source of connection. And I guess the single best commercial example of that, which used television incredibly powerfully, was when we revived or brought back Harvey Keitel's Winston Wolfe character for Direct Line, because the revelation was that insurance is not about getting some money back. It's about putting things back like they never happened, just as Winston Wolfe did with the backseat of the Chevy Nova when Samuel L. Jackson had blown somebody's brains out. That was the commercial engine. That led to 6 years of growth for that brand, simply because we went, oh, jeepers. Insurance isn't about cash, it's about making it go away.
It's a revelation.
It's a revelation.
Thank you. Anything to add, Veriça, Rack?
I think actually just picking up on it's about, I think it is about revelations, but I also think it's about holding the mirror up sometimes in a way that is either surprising or actually creates new connections. And I think sometimes we use it in a much broader sense, and particularly for us, in terms of Channel 4, we're able to go and speak to, brands, advertisers, broader stakeholder society, schools, whoever it might be, actually reflect back a little bit about modern Britain, because of course we know so much from the programs that we make and the connection that we have and the impact that we're trying to make in the broader world. So whether it's something like the study like Beyond Z, which really looks at the truth, almost like the truth about young people today and kind of revealing what that looks like, that's been hugely powerful, particularly when we've been working with advertisers who don't always see the world in that way because they're only perhaps looking at the insight connected to their direct audiences in the
hugely narcissistic.
Hugely
so broader
pieces.
revelations.
Or, another really good example would be actually where we try and drive change in other parts of our industry. So something like we have a study called Mirror on the Industry, which we run every year, which holds up the mirror to the advertising industry to show representation on screen in advertising. And that forms the basis of the challenge each year around the Diversity in Advertising Award. But again, it's a way of us using kind of insight at a broader level to hold the mirror up and actually instigate and provoke some change, whether it be with advertisers or whether it be for the kind of broader good. So I think we use it in a multifaceted way.
Great, thank you. Raka, I'm going to come to you with actually a build on this question, which is about new ways to engage, which I guess uses stacks of insight almost by definition. So just thinking like new ways to engage, I know engage is another one of those words like insight, but what new tactics, innovations or ideas have grabbed your attention and what are you excited about? And particularly what about the blurring between content and commerce that I guess we're really seeing?
Sure. Well, I do just want to sort of wrap on a little bit on the insight piece. At Spotify, we call our data and insight our streaming intelligence, and that streaming intelligence powers everything we do.
Did you say screaming intelligence? Streaming intelligence.
Streaming.
Okay, streaming intelligence.
The world of streaming. And that sort of drives our products, it drives our marketing, and it drives our advertising engagement. I loved what Veriça said there as well about holding up the mirror. So we also do an insight piece called Sonic Science, which actually is very illustrative to the mood busting that a platform like ours can really sort of generate. What I'm very excited about is, it may not sound exciting, but it is for me, very much so. The world of the spoken word has been around longer than the word of visual. And now we're entering into a space where we can bring all of the various different tools that are needed so a marketer can make the most of that, very much so. So whether that's the table stakes of measurement or creativity, or whether that's around scale and all of these sort of elements, that's something we're able to do because we can see the end-to-end spectrum of what's actually possible too. I know I mentioned AI earlier on. Apologies, that should have gone in your box.
It's in the square box.
As well. Yeah. We have just launched AI DJ. I'm imagining many of you in the room are on Spotify, so go and try this out. So this is a personalized DJ that 551 million users have. I only listen to AI DJ now. He tells me, and actually he's an employee at Spotify as well, so he read out 3 paragraphs, and now he is in every language, every dialect. And so he'll say to me, Rak, you haven't listened to this for 9 months, or this is the right sort of thing for you too as well. And I'll leave you with this one, just on AI DJ. On April Fool's Day, so I only listen to house music. I know I should have much more diverse music taste because I'm at Spotify. I only love house music. And on April Fool's Day, he started off by playing some classical music. And I thought, what is this? And after 10 seconds, he went, April Fool's, Rak. Let's get back to your normal listening.
Ah, fantastic. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Terrifying.
Now, I'm going to move us on. I'm just going to jump the tracks, if you like. Because I do want to get on to saving the world and the universe in just a moment. But if I could just come to the age-old question about brand building and performance marketing and how to get the best outcomes, is that distinction at all relevant anymore? Or does it just deserve to be dynamited for once and for all? And Richard?
Dynamite the fucker.
Dynamite.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
It's mildly offensive to call part of marketing performance marketing, and it's really stupid to call part of marketing brand, since we all understand that brands are built by every experience or interaction with an organization or business or product. So it seems a false distinction. And I'd say what we're now witnessing in a proper, fully integrated sales funnel is that you can buy at any point. We used to be able to maybe hold people at awareness or hold people at consideration. If you spin somebody into a market because your work gets them to consider that they need new broadband, you immediately are going to stimulate a sales process and a series of journeys that may lead to you or may lead to a competitor. So I think the point now is that is that little sort of basket symbol appears every single stage in the sales funnel. So I think it's nonsense to make that distinction. We're also witnessing people who have believed wholeheartedly in performance marketing, wondering why they can't scale their organizations. And they're so dependent on very expensive PPC or whatever it happens to be.
So we're still filling the hopper. Are we still filling the hopper?
I'm still filling the hopper. I mean, the different models are available, but yeah. It's just you can buy at every point.
No, I hate hoppers. I like fans. Anyway, thank you. We haven't got too many minutes to solve the future in the sort of bigger sense, but I'm just going to give it a go because I'd hate to let you escape from this session on the future of advertising without looking more broadly about the future and the fact that hopefully there will be one. And bearing in mind that a lot of people think that the advertising industry is populated by Dr. Evils who wake up trying to despoil the environment and, basically ruin everything. Here's the question. Your last reflections on the future of advertising, saving the world or accelerating its destruction. So we've just got a few minutes to talk about that one, and obviously I think we can carry on afterwards. But who'd like to go? Veriça, do you want to go first on this one?
I'll go first on this one. I think the future of advertising will both save the world and accelerate its decline. It's going to do both, because advertising is fundamentally the fuel that runs through most organizations that produce quality content and high quality editorial and make it available at free or little cost to consumers. So advertising is a fundamental part of everything that we produce that is quality and worth having, that viewers and listeners get to see. It's also the fuel that runs through algorithmically based platforms that may restrict people's choices and create those echo chambers we heard about earlier. So advertisers also have to recognize that they have a sort of set of choices, but also a set of understanding about what it is that their advertising dollars are doing.
So we need to sort of form a sort of MI6 sort of operation to make sure we're on the side of the angels.
I think we have to make sure that people recognize that that what is happening is happening. There we go.
Oh, that was quite deep. Thank you. Right. I'm going to Richard, and then I'm going to come to Rack. Richard.
It could save us if we want it to. I mean, advertising is a tool that's regulated by Saatchi, and if you want to popularize a net zero future, we can do that. If we want to reduce the proportion of meat that we eat in a diet or reform the farming system, we can help do that. If advertising is put to ill, it's because we've allowed that to happen. So I think we're here for good if society wants us to do that. In the final instance, though, we are children of capitalism, we serve capitalism, and maybe that's the bigger question.
You thought I was deep. That's a much bigger thought to end on this one.
So the world needs changing, business runs the world, so we need to change business, and actually advertising is a great way maybe of shaping that.
We're good at
just saying
manipulating people.
Oh, that's a bad word, manipulating.
Right in the swag bucket.
Actually, Sir John Hegarty said that creativity is the best way to save the planet. So.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Damn right.
Damn
okay,
right. And
yes,
do you know what, Richard?
Rack,
That's
on that.
another
Damn
bomb.
right.
Yeah, completely right. Look, it's a creator form. It's something that it creates inspiration. It is bringing education. It is bringing entertainment. It is doing all of that. Not every platform takes everyone on a spiral downwards. Our platform makes people feel up. Our platform makes people feel calm, right? And so, look, the world ahead of us is bright, 100%. Hear, hear.
There we
I suppose I
go.
ought to stand
It's a
up,
rousing cry.
stand up and
Come
punch
on,
the air
here,
now,
right?
actually. Or rather, we're all going to go into oblivion whilst listening to some wonderful music, at least. So that would
We have all types of music, not just house.
be wonderful. Also,
Yeah, like
and
DJs
and
here,
other,
right?
other channels are available, I think. That's the other thing to say. We are just on time, would you believe? That's really very spooky and brilliantly chaired, obviously. Anyway, look, can I just say a huge thank you to a fantastic, entertaining, insightful panel, not too many swear words. I hope that you've enjoyed it. And now I think I'm going to reintroduce the amazing Alex Mann for the next session. So thank you.